So now we've got Yvonne Taura. Yvonne is at Landcare Research, and she is going to talk about Reo Te Report, the voice of the wetlands. Welcome.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ki te mihi kia koutou ki tēnā hurihuri noa ki tēnei rā, tēnā koutou. Ko ai au, he ri tēnei no Ngaitirangi, Ngāti Ranginui, Ngāti Tūwharetua, Ngāti Unuku, Ngā Iwi. He te mahi au, he kairanga hau Māori mō Manaaki Whenua. Ko Yvonne Taura talking. So, yeah, it's great to be here. Ngā mihi nui kia koe mā, I could have listened to you a lot longer. You could have taken my spot if you wanted to. Your kind of projects are really up our alley, and especially with your collaborative nature of working with mana whenua. So yeah, really congratulations on your project. So I'm a freshwater ecologist, and I was a little bit unsure of how I could contribute to this kaupapa today, but after hearing everyone's kōrero, it seems to me that wetlands are very much a popular solution to our urban issues, so I feel like I'm in the right place today. So I'm going to be using Reo Te Report, the Swamp Maiden, as she's quite very much front and centre for my kōrero. So just a short background to the importance of wetlands and the current state of wetlands throughout Aotearoa. I'm going to be sharing a bit of wetland resources that we've developed over the last decade to bring awareness to our wetland situation, and then some very crude urban design observations based on my experience as a wetland ecologist. So if anything, what I hope you gain from my kōrero is that wetlands are important ecosystems, and I think it's been kind of said multiple times today, and that as designers you have an important role in reclaiming their existence, so no pressure. So repo, as we call them, are important ecosystems globally. They provide a wide range of environmental, economic, social and cultural benefits known as ecosystem services. They remove nutrients and sediments washed in from the land and are referred to as mawhatukuhu or papatuanuku, so nature's kidneys. So they're also effective carbon sinks for climate change and are very much important for mahinga kai sites and cultural resources such as rongoa Māori and raranga. So even though wetlands have provided valuable ecosystem services, repo have significantly been reduced, with only 10% of our wetland extent remaining. So these, and also they have ongoing threats to their survival. So they continue to be drained, nutrient loaded, and rapid spread of introduced plant species and animal pests. So here's just a historic and current view of our wetlands. So in the North Island, we've fared pretty badly, with only 4.9% of our original wetlands remaining. We have two large wetlands up in the northern Waikato, and that's Kapuatai and Whangamarino, and then significant Ramsar sites. And in the South Island, we only have 16 remaining, with mostly located along the west coast and Southland. We have also quite a number of different types of wetlands. What I kind of wanted to note was that these are some illustrations from our Reo Te Report series. And each of these wetlands, they have quite unique species that have adapted to each of these wetlands. So they're very unique, they're endemic to New Zealand, and very important for our biodiversity. So through the Wetlands program led by Manaaki Whenua for the last decade, it gave us an opportunity to promote and raise awareness of wetland issues and the responses made from our communities nationwide. So the first of our handbook is the Wetland Restoration Handbook, which was released back in 2010 by Dr. Monica Peters and Dr. Bev Clarkson. So this handbook emphasised wetland restoration. So, countless tips and valuable insights into how communities can restore their local wetlands. But as we went along, we realised that we wanted to create a more culturally focused handbook, and so Reo Te Report was published in 2017 and was born from the collaborative efforts between Manaaki Whenua and Waikato Tainui. So the handbook includes processes to facilitate renewed and vibrant connections between whānau and their wetlands, understanding of cultural resources, and learnings from wetland restoration case studies, cultural indicators, and monitoring. All chapters highlight the collaborative efforts of Māori-led projects working with scientists and researchers, and all the articles are written by Māori researchers who work with Māori partners. The aim of the handbook was to provide best practice techniques for the enhancement and protection of cultural wetland values, most importantly raising the voices of our wetlands through the voices of our people. The handbook is divided into 3 sections, giving examples of engagement processes with mana whenua, highlighting cultural indicators and taonga species, and providing insightful tools and approaches of wetland restoration and how whānau have adapted these tools for their own projects utilising mātauranga Māori. So another way we wanted to promote the importance of wetlands was our latest collaboration with the Science Learning Hub to transform Reo Te Report into online bilingual educational resources. And this opportunity was really to empower kaiako and tamariki to restore their own wetlands. So in order for them to become their own kaitiaki of their own wetland spaces. So the call came directly from the teachers themselves. So I got to work with science educators and Māori language experts to develop resources specifically tailored for the teaching environment, both for kura kaupapa and mainstream schools. So we created quite a lot of different resources. If you go into the website, it's quite overwhelming how many resources we made. But it was very important for the teachers' feedback that we got was that there's a lack of educational resources in Te Reo Māori and Te Ao Māori. And Te Ao Māori. So we wanted to create resources that were specifically tailored to the kura kaupapa situation, and while also creating resources for mainstream schools. So with multiple articles, teaching guides, interactive maps to navigate the site, and also some video clips that feature wetland kaitiaki, scientists and experts. So all of our resources are available on the website, both on Manaaki Whenua and at the Science Learning Hub. So I hear that wetlands are very popular, so if you know of any schools that are wanting to restore their local wetlands, please go check it out. We're also now currently completing the 2nd volume of Te Reo Te Report, so it's been a couple of years since we released the last one, and it was always our desire to keep continuing telling these stories of our whānau. So showing our commitment to continually highlight whānau stories to ensure these are promoted throughout our communities. So we'll be launching this handbook at the International Wetland Conference in Christchurch in October. And this handbook also promises to deliver more whānau and iwi-led restoration projects, shining a light on native species that are very rarely spoken about or even very popular, and a few other surprises in store too, so watch this space. So while I was thinking about how do I contribute to this conference, I thought I would use Reo Te Report, who is the personification of swamps, to help guide my kōrero. So within a landscape context, I wanted to look at the feminine nature of Repo, centered around our atua wahine, and her raw beauty displayed right throughout the year. So, and I also wanted to talk about where wetland design can play a role in embracing the unique nature of Repo and the ever-changing cycles of wahine through both an ecological and cultural lens. So, for starters, I thought I'd show a real-life example of how wetlands have been pushed to the edge with the drainage of land, not only for farming but for urban development as well. So this is in Ōtautahi, and this is the historic wetland extent in gold. Shows where there used to be massive, large wetland systems, and now have been reduced to these small pockets of wetlands, which you can see in the green. This is Orua Paeroa, the last remnant of the large wetlands that used to cover the Canterbury Plains. And Orua Paeroa is 56.5 hectares, but used to be part of this much bigger system, which you can see in the red there. Part of that big gold blob there. So I was quite pleasantly surprised to hear about Te Ao Māori and kaupapa Māori considerations in the Te Mana o Te Manu assessment. So it just really shows how, you know, in different industries and different places, we're definitely thinking from a cultural perspective. So it's important to consider wetlands and urban designs for three reasons. To better recognise the stories on the landscape that came before us, so meaning the interaction between ngā atua and the ecology, and then secondly, to better recognise the human stories of how communities were shaped by and interacted with these spaces, so meaning the interaction between mana whenua and their ecology. And then lastly, to better recognise and protect the remnants we do have left by bringing these back into our urban landscapes. So I put together some possible considerations for urban design. So who and what was here before and who and what are here now. So if there used to be a wetland but now a highly modified landscape, what opportunities exist for designers to bring wetland-inspired elements back into the landscape? And I think, Mark, you actually just pretty much answered that whole thing for me. Is this an opportunity to work collaboratively with mana whenua? Yes. And does this potentially solve current land-based issues? Yes. So design elements to think about also is important to note that wetlands are more than just plants. They are habitats for our native breeding, roosting and foraging for birds, fish and insects. So just kind of looking a bit deeper into the kinds of biodiversity beyond just planting plants. The design needs to be more than just aesthetics and stormwater treatment, but also consider ecosystem services, which again I think Mark has really highlighted a great example for us here today. There could be lessons learned by mana whenua through their intergenerational knowledge of the area that could add value to the overall design. So, thank you very much. So a few examples I came across, and again I'm not a design expert, I am a wetland ecologist, so everything I'm saying today is based on my experience working within the Repo and also working with our people. But what I did find out was Wellington is a bit of a design mecca. The waterfront is incredible, not only for sculptures and harbours, but also and especially for landscaping. So I just chose Waitangi Park in Wellington. I'm sure most of you all know about that one, which was once a wetland fed by Waitangi stream. It used to be traditionally a mahinga kai site, rich with tuna, fish and shellfish, and also a source of fresh water. So it was very much an interactive mecca for whānau back then. In the late 19th century, the stream became part of the wastewater system, and the now reclaimed land combines sophisticated design and ecological function. So me, as a wetland ecologist, I'm thinking, okay, so how does this design interact with the neighbouring natural landscape? So I'm looking at the Tuia grass up the back there, which is naturally great for whitebait spawning, where inanga might actually be using the space to lay their eggs. So this could possibly be an indicator of incremental change for nature within an urban landscape. Stormwaters again, so this is the St Kilda subdevelopment in Cambridge. It was a groundbreaking development in the Waikato when this approach first began. And the notions of wetlands as part of the subdevelopments is slowly gaining popularity. So this design uses a mixture of wetland plants with a strong aesthetic requirement by selecting the more prettier types of plants. I mean, I've never seen a natural wetland look like that before. So it's quite pretty. They've used plants that we wouldn't usually use in a wetland restoration space, but still a very aesthetically pleasing wetland design for its purpose. So consideration here is in pursuit to bring together stormwater management designs, subdevelopments, lakes and rivers around our urban spaces, to work in with wetland native plants. Designers need to be careful not to create monocultures of wetlands, and I think that's what Matua from over in China did say as well. It's making sure that we're not creating monoculture around our spaces and being a bit more diverse. So we don't want to be seeing the same rushes, reeds and sedges within these designs. So just some takeaway home messages. Reo Te Report is a beautiful mosaic of colours, forms, smells and sounds. We need to be mindful not to turn her into a cookie-cutter template for our design purposes. She is home for native biodiversity, free to roam the landscape without barriers or restrictions. As a designer, if you truly desire to be authentic in your urban designs, maybe go out into the natural wetland, talk to mana whenua about their landscapes, and experience the sights, sounds, smells, sounds for yourself to fully appreciate the realm of Reo Te Report. So, just wanted to mihi to our Wetland team that have kind of been involved in these projects for the last 10 years. Our co-editors, Dr. Monica Peters, Dr. Bev Clarkson and Sheree Van Shovendijk Goodman, all wetland ecologists and botanists and passionate about wetland survival. You'll always see them donning waders, sloshing around peat and around swamps and around looking under harikeke. You'll always see them and myself out in the field. So that's kind of where we like to be, like to hang out in. So, and also mihi to all the funders, stakeholders and collaborators who supported the development of these resources over the last decade, our whānau, hapu, iwi that we've all been privileged to work with on the various restoration projects over the years. So, ngā mihi nui kia koutou.